And we're live. Greetings, everyone, and fellow unbelievers. Thanks for tuning in. Today I'm chatting with Bad Tempered Badger from way across the pond there, so it's really late for him. So try to be nice to him tonight. He might be a little grumpy and tired. But anyways, you know the deal. I talk to people about their deconversion stories, and I like to sort of know how things got started and where it led to them being where they are now, kind of thing, as advocates for atheism or activists or whatever the case may be. So I'll let you take it away and start, from the beginning, and tell me your pathway to reason, so to speak.
Well, hello there, Bad Tempered Badger here. Yeah, it's a bit late over here. Just that should sort it out, though.
That's right. When it's late, just get drunk. That's all you got to do. I'm all out of beer, so oh
well. Where should I start?
I would say one of the best places is, like, do you have like a memory of the first time you kind of realized that this might just be bullshit?
Well, let me see. Better start somewhere near the beginning, I suppose.
Yes, indeed.
I grew up in a small rural village in England, so that's sort of a country badger upbringing, The village was they had a Church of England church and a Church of England run school. Mm-hmm. So I grew up going to this Church of England school and the church, and being taught all the sort of the basics of the Church of England branch of Protestantism, as it generally goes, Christianity and all that business.
Mm-hmm.
I first started to realize that it didn't quite make sense in school when the science I was being taught didn't match with the other things that I was being taught.
Okay. Makes sense.
So I was just floating around going, but if the universe is like really old, this doesn't make sense.
Well, considering they're trying to pass off that it's only about 6,000 years old, give or take, right?
Well, Church of England's not doing that quite so much. They're a bit more fuzzy.
Yeah.
Just kind of, well, some of it's metaphor, some of it's not. We're not quite going to specify which bits, at least not in Sunday school.
We'll just tell you what we think isn't made up.
So, I'd go to the church on the Sunday and I'd listen to the vicar, and he had this very particular way of speaking where he'd whistle when he said S sounds.
Oh.
I don't think it was deliberate.
Like the gopher from Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, pretty much. He just, as he'd speak, he'd say, so the Holy Spirit came down from the heavens.
That's awesome. Oh man, I couldn't have done that better myself.
I think he had a little gap in his teeth, so occasionally it would just. And of course, it was a big old stone church, so it would echo throughout the entire place.
Yeah, no doubt.
The village was a little bit culty. I'm not going to say it was a cult, because it doesn't meet the full criteria. It's not separate to society led by a charismatic leader and all this business, but it was a bit culty. If you weren't involved with the church, you weren't involved with any sort of village activities.
Really weird.
Yeah, well, everything was, all the people in the place who were sort of the elders, as it were, mm-hmm. were bigwigs in the church. So, if there was a village event going on, it was probably organized by somebody related to the church.
Oh, okay.
And the pub in the village was right next to the church.
Convenient.
But I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what the vicar did apart from the obvious. He'd do weddings and funerals, and he'd do the sermon on Sundays. I don't know what he actually did the rest of the time, apart from turn up at people's barbecues.
I would too.
Well, it's a good excuse, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
Just, I'd go to a village barbecue, just in somebody's garden. We'd have a few people around for the barbecue, and then the vicar would just kind of float in. He'd be like, he could smell the scent of sausages from 5 miles away. But there he was. He'd come floating in. He'd hello there. How are you today? How is your path to enlightenment and all of these things? He had a very calm voice, but I always felt that he wasn't really listening to what I was saying a lot of the time.
Right. Oh yeah, understood. Like when I argue with half the theists on fucking Twitter, like I've been doing. You saw some of that, so.
Oh yeah, I was in that chat.
Yeah.
I always sort of felt like he was thinking of how he could work this conversation into a sermon rather than actually the conversation itself.
I know, it's like they're always on the edge of just wanting to do that, right?
Yeah, just got the sermon planned. There were some good things that came of the church. So they did organize some community events that were quite interesting.
Oh, sure.
That's why recently I've kind of drifted away from the anti-theist label a bit lately. Not because, partly because I've looked at the definition a bit more closely and seen that it doesn't quite apply to how I view things, and also just because I've looked at some of the positive things that can come from religious organizations and gone, yeah, I don't mind those. I just wish they'd ditch the other bit.
Yeah, if they could have all the good could just be focused, and realistically, all the good could come from secular means. They don't need all the the belief attachments to it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you could have just rather than a church, like the village setting that I grew up in, rather than being a church, they could have just been like a community hall that had regular weekly gatherings of people turned up and just chatted with each other, and then could have organized community events and could have done all kinds of things.
Of course.
But
and he said community hall, people, not kingdom hall, okay?
Oh yeah, that's a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
But I do remember, I do have some fun memories as well. Like, where is it now? It's here somewhere. I'll just go through my little badger set here.
Bag of badger tricks.
Right, here it is. Lost my earphone now.
Uh-oh.
There it is. Right, I've got my I was going through the bookshelf. I was doing my Noah's Ark video, and I was trying to look up the actual Noah's Ark story in the Bible. So I went in the other room, going through the bookshelf. I found the Bible. And I opened it up, and I realized that I've had this Bible since I was 3 years old, and it was given to me by the community group in the village.
Wow.
I was going through it, just going, remember this.
I had to buy mine, but mind you, I was raised in Jew, so.
Well, there you go. But I was, because there's a little card on the first page saying presented to me from the community group. And it's got colour pictures and all sorts of nice things. It's a good news book. Yeah. Have this lovely, colourful book. Young 3-year-old.
I wonder if they have a version that you can actually color yourself. Like a coloring book, but it's a Bible.
Probably. I'm sure you can get that. I remember I used to have this book. It was like a Bible stories for kids book. I can't remember the exact one. And there was a story about the Noah's Ark story. There was a little additional story that when they found Mount whatever,
Ararat.
That's the one, Ararat. The ark was floating the wrong way, so that one of the monkeys or something grabbed the snake and held onto one end of the snake, and then the snake grabbed onto the mountain and pulled the boat over or something.
Oh, okay.
It's one of the Bible stories for kids ones, try and promote teamwork, niceness, and all this business.
Well, shit, that just makes it all the more believable too, right?
Yeah. Got the snake. Just grab it.
Well, sure. They got those fangs. They could act like like a hook and pull them in, right?
Didn't have any rope on board. This massive boat. They didn't think to bring any rope. They just used the snake.
Yeah, poor fucking snake, man.
What else is when a deconversion? That's what this is about, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Bad tempered badgers, midnight deconversion. That was what I put on Twitter. Yes. Well, I started as I was going through school. I was going to the church every week, and it was frequently I'd just be kind of sitting in the pews, just going about some of the stories they were telling, and hearing the vicar go whistling whenever he said S's or whatever. But then I got quite interested in history and quite interested in science.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that as I was doing more reading, I was particularly interested in ancient Egypt, for example. I realized that a lot of the Bible stories that took place there didn't quite line up.
Right.
And I was also quite interested in science, so I'd be looking at the science textbooks and going, well, this whole religious concept doesn't actually fit with science. This whole understanding of how things work. Adam and Eve doesn't make any sense. Is that supposed to be a metaphor, or is that supposed to be taken literally? I don't think I ever got a concrete answer to that question.
I think it depends on the Christian that you ask.
Mm-hmm. But the memory that I have when I really sort of thought, I don't believe this anymore. The memory I had was I was just thinking about two concepts that I'd been told in Sunday school. I don't know how close to me being in Sunday school this might have been a few years later. But the concepts were God has a plan for everyone. He has a divine plan, and everyone, he knows everything about everyone. And the other concept was hell. If you don't follow God's rules, you'll be sent to hell.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I was thinking, if God has everything pre-planned, and there's a divine plan for everyone, the hell does he think he's doing, sending people to hell for following his plan?
Well, and plus, not only that, he already knows everyone that's ever going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So he could have very easily just not created them at all.
Precisely. And I was just sitting there thinking to myself, this makes no sense whatsoever. Who came up with this idea? And I thought, well, it can't be this all-knowing, all-loving God, because that's a stupid thing for God to come up with. Whose idea was this?
The Catholic Church. But don't tell anyone.
So that's what happened there. I just kind of drifted from thinking, yeah, I started off as kind of a Christian-y Christian, Church of England brand, of course. Yeah, got the English flag on there, but started off doing that, and then I realized I wasn't particularly sociable, so I didn't really like that there was so much religion at all the community events organized by the church. So I kind of drifted away from things a little bit then, and then I called myself a solitary Christian for a while.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Where just kind of be off by myself. Still kind of, yeah, God's all right, but I'm not so into all this talking about it all the time. And then I just gradually drifted to the point where I thought, I don't actually believe this.
Yeah, very good. Now, how old were you when you finally came to that conclusion?
I'm not entirely sure. I think I was between primary school and secondary school, so that would be elementary and high school, of course, for you blasted colonials, you know.
Oh, these colonials here in Canada, we know what you mean when you say that.
Well, that's all right then. Anyone in the chat in the other place, you'll know what I mean now.
I have a question for you from Reese.
Oh yeah.
That he asked me a few minutes ago. He said, "How old is the badger, and how long do badgers live? I guess on average. And are you afraid of bears?"
Well, I will start that with the last question. Bears. You've seen bears, right?
Of course, I've seen one up close.
They're big.
Oh yeah.
You know, they're pretty big.
Oh yeah.
I'm not generally scared of bears where I've seen them, which is at a distance, just over there. But if I was to, if a bear was to come around my badger set and come visiting, I'd be a bit. For a start, I'm not sure how he's going to fit in through the door. Then I'd also be worried that my kettle is not going to be big enough to make him a cup of tea.
Oh, right.
And then I'm worried that he'd be concerned about this lack of tea and claw me up. You know.
Where's my tea? Well, that's the one thing I missed about being over in England was the tea time, man. Best tea I've ever had is over there. So, kind of an Earl Grey fan myself. But.
Oh yes, I do like the Earl Grey. I saw a excellent post on the old social medias a little while ago. Just said, "This is a post to remind you about your cup of tea that you've probably forgotten and is going cold somewhere." What were the other questions there? It was how long do badgers live?
Yeah, how old is the badger and how long do they live?
Well, badgers, I'd actually have to look that up.
Well, we could do that actually.
Well, let's have a quick Google.
I think it depends on the species, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. That's the wrong badger. That's the American one. There were no American badgers in here.
Oh yeah, the honey badger. Both up. Right away.
Okay, the standard European/Eurasian badger has a lifespan of around 14 years normally. Okay. But of course, I am the highly evolved pinnacle of evolution of the badger, so
right.
That'll last a bit longer.
just a bit.
Yeah. As for how old is the badger? Old enough to know better, but young enough to do it anyway.
Oh, good Lord. Now they want to know if you know the fantastic Mr. Fox.
I know of the fantastic Mr. Fox.
And Reese was kind of laughing at your statement of the kinds of badgers. With a little haha after it, like he's sounding like fucking Ken Ham or something.
The Ken Ham of badgers.
Yeah.
Ken Ham worries me.
Oh, yeah.
It's that beard. You know how the beard goes almost to his nose from every angle?
Right.
His face worries me.
I think in general,
whatever, but his face is. Ooh. Anyway.
Okay, so where were we?
Well, anything I haven't really covered so far with the deconversion? What do you reckon?
Well, I think you've kind of gone over how you sort of fell away from it, but what like, when did you decide that you wanted to sort of start speaking out about it? Because you do that. I've seen you on Twitter, you know, jumping on threads where people are making ridiculous claims, and so you are a bit of an atheist activist. So how did you, or when and how did you decide to become that kind of an atheist?
Well, it's been sort of going on for the last year or so.
Okay.
I was watching a lot of talky people on the internet, because I do the videos as well. Watch my Noah's Ark video. I spent absolutely ages making the thing.
Yes, do watch it because it's really good. So,
but I've watched a lot of people talking about various issues, atheism included, online. I mostly talk about that at the moment. There are other things I want to talk about as well, such as environmental issues, other pseudoscience-y things.
yep.
A little bit of politics that I want to talk about, but there's, that's a bit of a mess trying to deal with politics. I'm trying not to get into the whole drama side of that. There's a few things that I'm a little bit political about, but not very many. I try to avoid that where I can.
As do I.
But what's sort of got me started was I was watching a lot of, the big names in the sort of, in quotes, new atheist thing, Dawkins, Hitchens, all those people. And
oh yeah, the new atheists.
Yeah, the quotes.
What the fuck that's supposed to mean.
I don't know what's new about them. But I suppose at the time they were new when that expression came about. But
I suppose
I particularly enjoyed watching Christopher Hitchens because he's a very charismatic man, as well as being right about a lot of things. There's things I disagree with him on, but the things that I agree with him on, I very much enjoyed listening to him particularly talk about. Then I discovered... Sorry, go
on. Oh, no, carry on.
I thought you were going to say something. Then I discovered the whole YouTube sphere of atheist people talking about it. I think one of the first ones I saw was Bionic Dance.
Oh, wow, cool.
And then I found, other ones. I was watching things by, Armored Skeptic, Atheism is Unstoppable, Logic, all the sort of the big names in the YouTube sphere. Then I found that there were a lot of smaller people who were gradually building up their audience and gradually making new and interesting arguments.
Right.
And I thought, this is interesting. There's a lot of people having very interesting discussions here. But
agree.
They're not. I've got things to say that aren't quite what everyone else is saying.
Well, your voice needs to be heard too.
Why don't I say some of those things? Why don't I make a little channel and just poke my snout in and have a little go?
Right.
So that's kind of what I did.
And some of the people in the chat are saying that, well, not directly saying, but they're liking your stuff, and so I'm sure they are glad you did. And I got to tell you, it's a lot of I've seen all the big YouTubers and stuff like Logic and Skeptic and etc. All the big ones that have been around for quite some time doing their stuff, and I was always I guess energized by their videos. But it's when I did notice, like you, the smaller YouTubers that were also clamoring to have their voices heard as well, is when I was sort of really intrigued and wanted to start putting mine out there as well. But there's so many channels and everyone's covering just about every aspect of it. And I didn't really see very many. I think I only ever saw one or maybe two other channels that actually focused on deconversion and how it happens for people. So I thought, well, that seems like a niche that needs some filling. So I thought maybe I would start by doing these kind of stories. Because originally I think I wanted to do street epistemology too, but there's tons of those guys out there too, right? So yeah, so I decided to start doing this, and I'm glad I did.
I think this is a very good avenue, also because it helps elevate other people who are just starting out and don't really have a huge audience. Like, almost no one was watching my stuff until I appeared on another freaking Atheist's channel. You know,
Right.
He and a little while before that, I did a Inane Dragon sent me a message, said, do you want to do a guest video? I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, Inane Dragon's awesome. And rumor has it, by the way, that he expressed interest in jumping in the after party.
I would. That would be great fun. I'd like to have a live chat with Mr. Dragon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what Duke was telling me. He says he's going to send him a link and stuff. So
that'll be interesting.
We'll see how that goes. He's not feeling 100%, but if he's up for it, he'll jump in for sure, according to Duke.
Well, I hope he gets better soon.
Yeah, me too. I'd be honored to have him in there.
Well, definitely.
Yeah, I love his stuff too. I mean, there's so many people that I watch, and then when people say, people always ask, so what do you? People always ask me, what do you watch for entertainment? And I go, mostly YouTube atheists. And I just start laughing. I find it entertaining, so why not? Or I love jumping into hangouts, right? So
I've a few times recently I've just been floating around watching things, and I've seen a hangout going on, and I'm one thing that I really enjoy and that I appreciate now that I have a channel that people know exists, or at least some people know exists, because it kind of gives me a little bit of opportunity to actually take part in some of these live conversations that are going on.
Yeah, for sure.
There were some people having a discussion. It was, what's he called? Deconverted Man was having a discussion with a young Earth creationist chap. And I just kind of appeared in the chat, and I said something, and he said, "What, do you want to jump in and have a talk with him?" I was like, "Oh,
yes,
okay, yeah, we'll do that." I was kind of in the middle of eating my dinner, but so I thought I wasn't going to have anything to say, so I kind of said, "No, I'll leave it to you, because I'm eating my dinner. I haven't really got anything to add," because they were trying to talk about, I don't know, like quantum physics or something. And then I realized
creationists talking about quantum physics.
Then I realized that he didn't know anything about quantum physics anyway, and he was just talking out of his ass about a load of bullshit. So I said, "Actually, yeah, I'll jump in, and I'll see if I'll see if I can get him to pin him down and get him to define some of his terminology." You know?
Good idea. Good idea. Yeah, definitions are very important when you're talking about stuff like this. Otherwise, you're just going off on all these squirrely paths, right? So we all know how much badgers like squirrels.
Oh, yes. So that's the trouble is they go up the trees and they're hard to follow.
I know. But they keep stealing my nuts. Oh, wait.
But yeah, that's one thing that I've really appreciated about doing the videos, is that it kind of gives me a window and a door in some cases into these conversations, so that I can actually get involved and add something to them if I have anything to add, of course.
Well, I'm always glad when you jump into mine, because you add an element to humor that wasn't there before. So
yeah, like
which is always fun.
Yeah, I do try and keep it fun when I can. I ended up in a whole conversation with Cirrus and a few other people about the Star Wars prequels a little while ago.
Oh yes,
it was Black Sofa. That was it. It was Black Sofa's channel, and
Black Sofa. Cirrus was there too, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
It was Black Sofa's channel. They had me, Cirrus, and a few other people in there. Strawman, Atheist, Strawman. I've forgotten which way around it is, and a few other people, and I don't think
Strowman's awesome.
I don't think Black Sofa quite anticipated how nerdy about Star Wars I can be, and also I discovered once I got in there how nerdy about it Cirrus is.
Oh yes, yes.
And we a lot of the chat was just me and him going back and forth, and me looking up on Wikipedia whether Mandalorian iron and cortosis are the same metal or different metals. It got quite in depth.
Oh man, I've been in many conversations about Star Wars mythologies, and it's actually, you know what, hardcore Star Wars fans can be pretty fucking scary. It's almost like they believe it's real sometimes. You're just like,
well,
dude,
the
chill.
Church of the Jedi now.
Oh yeah, that's right too. That's right.
Yeah,
I'd join.
We've got some of those around here. I don't know if there's any in my area, but they're definitely in the country.
I've heard of them.
Another thing I discovered quite recently is that there is an entire Discord server dedicated to the Mandalorian language.
Oh wow!
Because
cool.
there was a series of books written called the Republic Commando books, which the author for those books essentially started making the language, and she came up with a large amount of this language. And when I was reading these books, I found there were resources online, but I had no one to talk to about it. And I found I printed myself out a dictionary with all the words in, and then years later, sort of very recently, I discovered there's a Discord server for it. So I went in there and I realized the dictionary was still in my desk. So I just got it out. I went on the Discord server and I was there typing away in the chat, trying to with my dyslexic brain, trying to decipher this fictional language.
That must be so much fun if you are dyslexic, trying to decipher another language with that problem.
Oh yeah, I'm totally dyslexic. I sound sarcastic there, but I am actually totally dyslexic. I don't mean like I can't read and write, but it affects me in terms of my short-term memory, and I'm slower than average at reading and things like that. More of it is losing what line I'm on and forgetting what the subject of what I'm reading is and things like that.
Oh shit, I lose the lines I'm on sometimes too. And I have not been diagnosed with dyslexia, so I'll just be, and then I'll be distracted, and then I'll go back. Fuck, where was I? Right, so.
Yep. I've read an entire chapter of a book, and then realized that I read each and every word of that chapter, and I didn't take in anything from that chapter. And I've been sitting there, having read that chapter, and gone, the fuck did I just read?
I've had to read chapters over again.
I've gone to the start again and gone, I don't remember any of this, but I remember reading this.
Yeah, maybe I am a little dyslexic, I guess, because I've also had issues.
Yeah. I think that happens to people in general anyway, but I think it happens more with dyslexic people.
See, this is why I like audiobooks now. I don't have to read anything.
Since getting into the whole atheism activism thing, I listened to the Quran as an audiobook.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I have one, an actual book.
Yeah, me too.
But I don't think I could read it all the way through. So I listened to the audiobook.
Some of it's so fucking boring, so yeah.
I will say about the Quran's audiobook, it is incredibly dull. It's possibly the most dull thing I've ever listened to.
Well, now, kids, you know what you can read. Yeah, you know what you can listen to now if you want to go to sleep. Works better than NyQuil or the ZQL or whatever the fuck they call it now.
I used to find I used to find just reading would put me to sleep if I was already a bit tired and lying in bed. Even if I was reading something that I was really into and I really wanted to read, I'd start to do the thing, where I'd read a chapter or just read a page and realize I hadn't actually taken it in. Then I'd start reading it again, and then I'd realize that the book was on my face and I'd been asleep for 5 minutes.
Oh, I laugh because I've been there. Exactly the same fucking thing. Just wake up and then there's like drool on one of the pages and you're like, wait a minute. Fuck, how long ago did I pass out?
I'll like read them. Yeah. I'd read a paragraph and then I'd sort of open my eyes and drag my head off the pillow and read another paragraph, and then have to reread that paragraph, and then I'd realize that I'd lost my page because I'd fallen asleep and I'd shut the book, and then I'd just go, yeah, I'll sleep now.
Yeah, just toss it aside. I think one of the weirdest things that ever happened to me when I was reading is I was reading, lying down and looking up, and I don't remember falling asleep, but I do remember that moments after, I guess, when I fell asleep, that this book I was reading became my dream. Like it worked its way into my dream, which is really bizarre.
That is odd.
Yeah, like it just because I remember. What the hell? Like, wait a minute, wasn't I just reading this? And then you come to again, like moments later or whatever, and you're just like, holy shit! I started dreaming what I was reading. That's only ever happened once, though.
I've probably done that, but I don't remember very many of my dreams, generally speaking. I remember I remember bits of them occasionally, and there's a few from particularly when I was a lot younger that I remember in more detail. And there was one which I have named the Chocolate Monster. And that was an interesting dream.
How can you have the word chocolate? How can you have the word chocolate and monster in the same sentence? That doesn't make sense.
Okay, let me explain the Chocolate Monster to you. So,
all right, okay.
In this dream, I visited a village, and everyone was lined up outside making little things out of chocolate at this big long table outside a cave. And I went up to this table and I was, what's all this chocolate for? But I was a child at the time, so I just ate some of the chocolate. And all the villagers were like, no, don't eat the chocolate. The monster will come.
Oh, shit.
I looked at the cave and there was this big shape. I don't even remember what it looked like. But there was the big shape coming out of the cave. And it was looking at it. It was kind of like a Medusa thing, except it looked at people and turned them into chocolate.
Sweet. Literally.
I distinctly remember hiding between two suitcases.
Which were just randomly there, right?
yeah, they were there. I don't remember. I don't know exactly how I thought this was going to work, but apparently it did.
I guess you were small enough.
Well, badgers.
Well, yeah, true enough. You could probably hit inside one.
What are we here to talk about again?
Well, we're supposed to be talking about deconversion stuff, but I think
I suppose maybe I should have started a religion of the Chocolate Monster.
Yeah, yeah. I'd fucking be the first person in your church because I'm a chocoholic. So.
Oh yes.
I'd be like, okay, I want to be a what do you call it? One of the choir boys or something. I want to sing about chocolate. Holy fuck, held my arms up there and I look like an orangutan.
Well, I don't think you can use that as an avatar. We've already got a ape pistivist.
Yes. Yeah, but he uses a chimp. I could be an orangutan.
Yeah, I suppose.
Besides, my favorite character in the Every Which Way But Loose movie, Clyde. Clyde, scrap the caddy.
Excellent. Excellent. Now,
All right, so
yeah, go on.
I wanted to ask you actually, of the YouTube atheists, did you ever see the one with the Four Horsemen where it had Daniel Dennett and Hitchens and Dawkins and Sam Harris together talking about this stuff? It's called the Four Horsemen.
I think so. I think I saw it absolutely years ago.
It's a great one. I thought it's a really cool conversation they had. So.
Yeah, I think I will try and find it and watch it again. Actually, now I think about it, because I remember seeing it, but I don't remember exactly what they were talking about.
Oh, just general stuff about religion and harm that it brings and stuff like that.
Well, there's lots of that.
Oh yeah.
I can give you an example of that from my past, if you like.
Sure.
I'll give you two examples actually. There was one family that lived in a council house in the village I grew up in. Most of the village was quite posh. You know, it was quite well-to-do. Everyone was a little bit up themselves. And there were just one or two council houses in the village. Now, do you know how council houses work in England?
I remember I've heard about them. I'm not entirely positive what exactly happens there. So and I'm sure there are people listening that don't too. So
at the time, a council house was if you were on a low or no income and couldn't afford to buy or rent a house or rent any other kind of accommodation, you could, if you put yourself on a list and jump through all kinds of government hoops, be allocated a council house.
Okay.
And these would be managed by the local council, and you would be put in this house and you'd live there. And Thatcher brought in a thing called a right to buy. I think that was what the title was, where once you were living in a council house, if you got on your feet financially and you became financially able to, you could buy and become a private owner.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Now, this particular family that lived in this council house were not able to buy it from the council. They had a lot of difficulties. They had both physical and mental issues. And the church and the school, which was run by the church, left them feeling very alienated from everyone around them, which of course made the psychological issues worse. But
right.
My family and a few others were a small minority of the village who would actually go willingly to see these people. I'd go to visit because one of the children was about my age. I'd go around and see him. We'd do usual children stuff.
Blow stuff up.
I'd go around to his house and watch horror films that I was too young to watch, that kind of thing.
Awesome.
Did you ever see the film The Candy Man?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I was old enough by then, though. Oh, wow. Candyman.
Yeah, that traumatized me a little bit. Actually, not too much, though. There were other things that were worse. But anyway, he, not the Candyman, the guy I was going around to see, eventually had a bit of a mental breakdown because he, well, there were all kinds of things, but a lot of it was just he was so alienated from the community he lived in. And as well as that, there was other people in the family. They all had various different issues, and just the alienation of the village partly because they didn't quite play along with how the church wanted things run, and partly because they lived in the council house and it was a bit of a mess. Nobody really accepted them, so they just felt completely left out of everything, and that caused them a lot of issues. And it had a noticeable effect on both their physical and mental health. Another example of this would be my mother, who was very involved with the church for a while because the church ran the school, and she was trying to, she was a retired teacher, so she was trying to help with the school and by extension with the church, and keep everything happy, everyone getting along well. But she didn't quite do things how the church wanted things run. She was actually effective. So,
we'll have none of that.
Making changes, we can't have that. So they were a little bit culty about it, and you must do things in accordance with the doctrines, and you must do things how God wants them done, or rather how
dare you teach stuff like evolution.
Well, not so much the evolution stuff, because that was just part of the curriculum, but not taking the focus away from how great the church was and how great the church installed head teacher at the school was and all that business. So they went a bit culty, and they were quite manipulative. It's difficult to describe exactly how, because they weren't doing it to me, so I didn't directly see it, but I saw the effects of my mother gradually get more and more depressed over several years until we gradually moved out of the village.
Probably the best thing you did.
Yeah, since then she's much better. since we left that environment.
Well, you have to give your mom a big hug from me, saying, you can't win them all. I guess sometimes you got to get the hell away from these bad people. They're going to treat you that
absolutely. I mean, they weren't trying to be bad people, but they were trying to keep everything running in a very specific religious-y way.
Right.
Have you ever been to a small English village?
Yes.
Like a little country village with a church. Have you been to one of those?
Well, there was a church there. It was I was really young, and it was my best friend's grandparents' hotel that they owned, and it was surrounded by other homes and stuff. And then pretty much down the end of the block, there was a little pub and a church.
Mm-hmm. And I've just thought of the perfect example. Have you seen the film Hot Fuzz?
Yes. Yes.
Imagine that village, but with the whole cult round the table thing being in the church.
Okay.
Kind of, it's all for the greater good. The greater good.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, one of the reasons I found that film so funny was because I almost grew up in that village.
Like a village that was like almost just like that, eh?
Yeah, the village I grew up in was very picturesque. I forgot until because I now live on the edge of a city that is the nearest city to that village.
Okay.
I was out just going for a big walk, and I decided to walk through the village. And another time, I drove through the village, and I forgot how quaint the place is. Particularly the time I drove through, it was during election season, and I saw one of the local candidates to be an MP just striding down the street with a confident swagger, with his little party rosette pinned to his lapel. Yeah. And he was just swaggering down the middle of the road, right outside the pub, greeting everyone as they came out their doors.
Awesome.
And there was this sort of old lady just coming out the church, and he just walked over to her, greeted her by name, and just, hello there, dear. How are you? Can I count on your vote this coming election? She was, oh. I was driving through, just watching this, and watching the people come out the pub, and I was, oh, this is. I forgot how quaint this village is.
Every time I hear the word quaint, I always think I can't my memory sucks these days. But it was in Star Trek 4 when Scotty goes to use with the computer, and he goes, "Oh, you need to use a keyboard." Keyboard? How quaint! And he starts typing.
Me and a friend of mine quote that to each other all the time. We'd be talking, and we'd be talking and just saying, like if someone's microphone's cut out, we can't hear them. We'd use the keyboard. Oh, keyboard! How quaint!
Yeah. I like when he picks up the mouse and starts talking. And he starts going like, no.
Hello, computer.
He's like, keyboard, how quaint. And he keeps going. That's awesome.
They don't make films like that anymore.
No. It's all about action nowadays. Non-stop fucking action. There's no real I don't know. Sometimes I think stories just get lost in films today.
Oh yeah.
Because they want to fill it with explosions and giant alien ships and ghosts and goblins and all that shit, right? So, which I'm fine with. They're great movies. They're fun to watch.
I don't mind a bit of that, but when I'm watching a film, what really takes me out of the experience is the computer-generated CGI effects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of them are shitty. Others are decent. Some
of them are shit. Some of them are decent, but even the decent ones take me out of the experience a bit. And I much prefer, like, have you seen The Thing?
Yes.
And have you seen the recent, the original, and then have you seen the recent one they did?
I've seen all three.
Right. Well, the difference between the original and the recent one is quite stark in terms of the effects, because one is everything is practical and it is actually physically there with the actors.
Mm-hmm.
And the other
you're talking about the John Carpenter one, correct?
Yeah, the John Carpenter one, yeah.
Okay.
And the other one is not the one before that was even more ancient.
Oh, good Lord. Well, it was in black and white and it was cheesy as hell.
Yeah. The John Carpenter one and the more recent one. In the John Carpenter one, everything looks real. I mean, yeah, the effects look a little dated now, but I would watch it and still think that is real and it's there with the actors. Whereas all the CG effects in the more recent one, I'd look at and go, you're running away from something that isn't there. And it takes me out of the experience.
Yeah, well, sure, because you know that too, right? And it's always amazed me how these actors can actually act that way, knowing that they're really just looking at a placement that somebody put a tape X there. You got to look right here.
Yeah.
When you know, and it kind of blew me away. I always wanted to try being an actor myself, but shit just never happened. Now I'm behind film stuff. I work for a friend of mine's film production company. Mostly we do car shows, so I run the camera, filming cars and stuff, and talking to like some of the big time show guys and stuff like that. Oh yeah, it's really good. I get to meet lots of really cool people. See the nitro fuel and the jet cars and stuff like that. Oh, and the best part, the hot rod hotties.
Wow. The thing I like that that's the thing. The problem is I know almost nothing about the intricacies of vehicles. There's so many people who I could drive up to this show and they'd be able to tell me more about the thing I've driven up in than I know about it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Well, I mean, I do have some knowledge, but
look at that Peugeot. that you've driven up, and it has this many cylinders in the engine. It's got all these feet. And I'm there going, it does?
Great. Gets me where I want to go. That's all I care about.
But yeah, I'm kind of, my interests are all over the place. I like all kinds of nerdy things, and I also like some things that are quite out and practical, if you know what I mean. Like I'm quite into nature conservation. I've been doing volunteer work in that for like all this year.
Oh, awesome.
Vaguely involved in stuff before that.
That's awesome.
And my current hope is to find a job in carpentry.
Oh.
So
it's too bad you didn't live here. I know lots of people that are looking for carpenters, especially Finnish carpenters.
Oh, yeah. I'm currently sort of retraining in carpentry for hopefully finding a career in it.
It's
so I was
I've
in
done
IT.
a little bit. It's good. that well, that can be fun too. It's a little
it can
tedious.
be, but I didn't want to sit in an office all day. The other thing is,
yeah,
in my area, there's not much of that going on.
Okay. Hey, much better be. I was, being like, if you're into the environmental stuff and the nature conservation, that was like an outdoor, hands-on sort of shit, and that would also be really cool.
Yeah, the only problem with that is it's difficult to get into as a job, particularly at the moment, because the government is making all kinds of cutbacks to everything.
Fuck.
So there's not a huge amount of funding particularly for new people trying to get into nature conservation as a job. Most of it is in some way related to government funding, and where was I going with that? Government funding.
Yeah, government funding.
Yeah, most of it is.
Look, man, I told you, don't smoke beforehand.
Most of it is in some way reliant on government funding, and the people who are running the events and running the nature reserves and doing the conservation work, the people who are paid to do it are mostly very experienced and very qualified, and they've been doing it for years. It's very difficult to get into as a new person.
Right. Well, yeah, I can see why they would. I mean, you got to think about it from the aspect of the people that are paying for these sorts of things. They want the experienced, knowledgeable people there.
They want one person who can run an entire nature reserve and do community events, do the conservation side of things, do the management. And they want one person to work on a government-funded, quite low budget to handle that.
Right.
So they want someone who's been doing it for 20 years already.
Yeah. Someone's got the experience behind them, I guess. It's kind of a catch-22 because you want to work, but you don't have the experience, but you want to get the experience, but you can't get a job. It's like one of those fucking things. All right. Well, my friend, we've done our hour, but we can do a yeah, I know they go by so fast, man. Because you just kind of get into the conversation, but we can still chat for longer. But I usually like to do that in an after party. So,
well, that does sound like fun.
Are you up for it? I know it's getting a little late where you are. Okay. Nice. He's like, I got my drink. I'm good. Fuck you guys. Let's do this shit. All right.
I'm gonna go get some ice cubes and pour some rum into a glass.
Perfect. Oh shit! I still have scotch. What am I doing? Oh, I've got scotch. I'm good. I'll have a nice scotch with you guys.
I've got some rum in the drinks cabinet, don't you know?
Rum. That should be what I'm drinking. I'm the pirate guy here. Yarr, where's me rum?
I heard it was Pirate Day a little while ago, but I also heard the same day was Ask an Atheist Anything Day or something.
Yeah, well, every day's like got 5 different monikers attached to it. Today's wash your pig in the alley day. Fuck, I don't know. There's all kinds of crazy ass days. But yeah, it was talk like a pirate day. Yeah, I was doing it all day at work and pissing my boss off big time. So it was kind of funny.
Outstanding.
All right, so you guys know the drill. You guys that are watching, if any of you would like to come into the chat and hang out with me and Badger a little longer, You're welcome to send me a link through Twitter, and it's at 604Atheist. If you don't follow me, what's your problem? You should be. And you should be following Badger too. And I also have links to his channel in the description below. So do check out Badger's channel and definitely watch that Noah's Ark video, because it's fucking phenomenal. And he makes a lot of really hilariously good points. So what we need are people to send me messages, and I'll invite a few of you into the further chat with the Badger himself. All right. So anyways,
zombie Badger one as well. I did a zombie one.
Are you going to do a zombie one?
No, I did a zombie one. It's about the rapture.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. That's one I have not watched. I've been to Jerusalem, and there's not a lot of room for zombies to walk around in. I can tell you that. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. And Badger, man, thank you very much for coming on and telling me your story.
Thank you very much for having me.
I enjoyed our chat very much. It's always a good time, though. I mean, we always seem to have good laughs and stuff. So
yeah, I've been enjoying watching the previous ones.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I try and be as jovial as I can be, unless, of course, the situation requires that I'm a little bit more serious. Like, back when I talked to Nacho a while back, some of his stuff was pretty hard-hitting, pretty heavy.
Oh, so. Yeah.
But that's all part of it. I mean, we go through ups and downs, aches and pains, and good times, bad times. But eventually, the main focus is that we find our way free from these dogmatic belief systems that literally keep us down. So, I mean, we're talking about belief systems that don't agree with equality between the sexes and all kinds of horse shit. So if I have any influence on people by having these chats to let them know that it can be painful, but it's always more rewarding once you're free, then I've helped these people off the fence, right? To what I consider the good side. So so thanks
partly for why I got into this. If I can, that's why I do what I do on Twitter and such. Well, partly I just enjoy arguing with people. But, well, not so much arguing, but I enjoy discussing and just hearing things that I don't agree with, because it's useful as well as just, well, I don't agree with that and I'm going to tell you why. As well as that, it's useful to hear things I don't agree with and test whether I actually understand why I think what I think and whether I think that's correct.
Yes, yeah, very well said. And I like to do the same. I like to hear opposing opinions or ideas too. So,
and
anyway,
the other part of that is, if there's something that's awful and dogmatic and terrible, and there's an opposition to it in the comments to it, like on Twitter with that pastor who keeps putting stuff all over the place.
Good Lord, yeah.
And if there's a Badger in the comments underneath saying, well, actually, that doesn't make any sense, and here's why, and someone goes, oh yeah, maybe I'll think about it a different way, then I've made a difference.
Exactly. And that's all we can do, is try our best to make a difference. So hopefully the world turns to a much brighter side at some point.
Hopefully.
It's going to be a long haul, but we can do it. I don't think religion will ever really disappear completely, but I'm pretty sure a majority of the world at some point will become more secular, for sure.
And I don't think it would necessarily be good for religion to disappear completely. But I think it would definitely be good to lose a lot of the superstition and the supernatural crap, and also the general archaic way of looking at things, and the negative attitudes and the bigotry that can come along with it.
Yes, that's the part that has to disappear. I mean, being throughout Europe and Middle East and stuff, I have seen fucking beautiful religious architecture, and just some of the imagination that these guys had when they were building these things, it just blows me away. Like just some of the sculptures and the paintings, and it's just like, wow. And I was an art history major way back in my youth, right? That's one of the first things I was interested in. Yeah, 100 years ago.
Back in my day, we didn't have none of this computer luck.
That's right.
Entertainment.
We had to use Rolodexes and actually go to a library.
A library.
Yeah, back in my salad days, as they say. All right. Well, again, man, thanks again for doing this with me. It's been an an honor and pleasure to have you on my channel.
Oh,
and
thank you
thanks.
very much.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I've been a fan of your work for some time now too. And anyone in the chat, you know what to do. Send me a little message on Twitter, and I'll send you the link, and you can hang out with me and the Badass Badger. Oh, I'm sorry, Bad-Tempered Badger. But Badass is good too, man. So
maybe
anyway.
I'll put that on the Twitters.
There you go. Bad. Just put tempered and then put ass in brackets or something. Wait, no, tempered ass. No, that doesn't work.
Oh. France says you look great for being 604.
Thanks, Brad. Except that's just the area code where I live. It's not my age, buddy. Anyway, all right, guys. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for hanging out in the chat. And sorry, I see you, Nadine. I'll send you a link. Don't worry. She's always in my chat. She's like kind of like a virus. Once you get it, you can't get rid of her. It's like herpes or something. No, I'm kidding. I love it. Yeah. All right, I'm going to end this now, and we'll jump into the after party in a few moments. I generally like to get it set up and go have my quick cigarette, and then we'll jump in. So you can all expect links sometime within the next 5 to 10 minutes,
which gives
you a chance. You can go get your cubes and some rum, and we can all be pirates. All right. Anyways, as I always say at the end of my videos, remember, guys, it's called faith because it's not fucking knowledge. Cheers.